Hello everyone. Today video is about Claudia. She's a friend. She went from 0 to 6,000 follower in just 6 months, but she inspired me when she had just a few followers. Her execution is tremendous. She can write a thread just a few hours. We have a small group where we ask her how she does it, and she agreed to show us her system, her workflow, her habits. And in this video, she's sharing everything she does to execute on her ideas and the reason behind her growth. So please watch, take all the knowledge, reach out to her if you have question, reach out to me if you have a follow-up question, comment on this video or her DM or on her thread. So let's see this.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey,
Hello.
Claudia.
Hi, Claudia.
Awesome. Okay, I'll just turn on my video as I promised.
Hey. Yeah.
I feel like having camera turned on is causing some connection issues, so I'll probably need to turn it off sometime during the call.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so I've created like a PowerPoint presentation for today where I break down my content creation system, and this will take like a few minutes to go through, and then I'm open to any questions you guys have about content and Twitter growth and stuff related to that.
Look at you. You
I
already
hope that
have a
sounds good.
presentation and everything.
Amazing.
That's awesome, Claudia. Please go for it.
Oh, okay. So
Suzy-
can I share my screen?
yeah, just a quick sync up. Susie, do you remember Claudia? She was in
I
Avi
do.
Sorry?
I
April.
do. I do remember Claudia. I remember when she announced that, how old she was and that ex-friend of hers was a jerk. I remember supporting her on that. So yes, I do remember
Okay.
Claudia very much.
We all know each other, so let's get into it, Claudia. The stage is for you.
Okay, so my content creation system. Uh, I break down everything into three parts, which is generating ideas, then capturing and processing ideas, and then executing ideas, aka writing. And I have specific hacks and steps to optimize each process of each step, and I want to talk about today. So the first part is generating ideas. And this is like the classic stuff. So going for walks is a big one because it doesn't have to be walks necessary, but it's that you have to dedicate your time to activities when your brain is not focused on anything particular and it's in the so-called diffused mode. So your brain has more space to come up with some creative ideas. And ideally, before you go for a walk, you want to dedicate some time to consuming content that truly resonates with you, which I call intentional consumption. And what I like to do from time to time, I don't do it every day. I'll try to do it at least once a week or twice a week. And so I just sit down and I read random pieces of content. So usually tweets from my Twitter lists. I don't usually scroll the feed because the feed can be cluttered with non-valuable tweets and people who are just posting those classic platitudes. So I try to create Twitter lists on specific topics. And whenever I'm interested in one, I'll just open the list and scroll through it. So I guess you guys probably know how to create a Twitter list, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And so whenever something catches my attention and I feel this like dopamine spike that it really resonates with me, I try to go down the rabbit hole and found something that's related to that. So then YouTube videos, articles, podcasts, and stuff. And as I said, I try to do it on a weekly basis. And whenever I'm doing this, I'm also taking notes in Apple Notes. And then what I do with those notes, I'll talk about this one later. And also, I have my Notion swipe file, which is basically like a Notion page. I can share with you all guys after the call is done. And I store there tweets from my favorite creators. It's not big right now. I update it gradually every single week, but it's really useful because what I like to do is just sit down, look at my favorite creators' tweets, and sometimes I can just immediately come up with a way I can reframe them into tweets that are relevant to my own niche. So I can probably show you my swipe file just real quick. So your Danko, Sana Ahmed, he said I'll just keep updating it. So Danko is a big inspiration for yeah, I just want to apologize. My computer is pretty slow. So yeah, here that inspire me. And whenever I read a tweet and then come up with a way to create my own tweet from it, I write it into app called Drafts, which is app for I think iOS only. But if you're using any other system, you can just use any other note taking app. So Google Docs, Google Keep. Not sure how there, but yeah, I like Notion for storing tweets and then Drafts for writing my own tweets, so I can keep it or to. So next step is capturing and processing ideas. So there are like three types of ideas I capture. The first ones are hooks and headlines. So again, I'm just on a walk or in the shower, at school, whatever, and interesting idea pops in, or I'm watching YouTube videos or listening to podcasts, or I scroll through my Twitter feed and I see a thread going viral, and I say, okay, maybe I can make a thread or an article on that. And I usually try to come up already with the hook and the headline, because when you have a hook or a headline, you've already defeated the writer's block, because the writer's block is basically like staring at a blank page and knowing what to write. But when you already have hook or headline, just have a little bit at least to start from. And I capture them, I email them to myself so I don't forget them. So I'm trying to batch this process, so I don't do it every single day, but like a couple of times a week, I sit down, look at some interesting pieces of content from different platforms, and try to come up with my own hooks and headlines for my own content, and then I write it in an email and send it to myself. And then once a week, I review the ideas I've captured, look at the ones that resonate with me the most, and then I just execute them, which is what we'll talk about later. But just for your information, right now I'm posting 3 threads per week. So yeah, each Sunday I pick 3 most interesting pieces of content or headlines and hooks, and then I also schedule them for every single day, or thread writing days. Yeah, I write threads on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then either Saturdays or Sundays. The next are tweets, which I've already mentioned that I capture them in drafts. So again, when I'm on a walk or I see interesting tweet and I come up with my own, capture it here. And then there are those small ideas and concepts that usually come from reading books and listening to podcasts and this long form content. So whenever a concept resonates with me and it leaves me speechless, then I put it to Apple Notes. And then I try to do this like once or twice a week. Ideally, would be 3 times a week. I take all of my Apple Notes that resonate with me, and I put it down to this app called Obsidian. And this is just a note-taking app, complex note-taking system, very similar to Notion or Roam Research. But the reason I like it is because it's very easy to create connections between notes in there. Plus, it can also show you like a graphic view of those connections. I have here like different notes on different topics, writing, as you can see here, spirituality, philosophy, online business, everything I'm interested in. And because interest changes, and the notes change over time as well. So I have here tons of notes. And here, if you click on this this, then you can the square diagram of how everything. And it's very nice. Also, research much more easier. And again, I'll get to this one in a minute. But like whenever I want to incorporate certain quotes or tweet on a topic, I just search it in here, and it's usually where it's supposed to be. So it's much easier to create a high quality content like that. So this is Obsidian. Obsidian is absolutely free, at least the version I'm using, and it's just enough. So no need to like Roman research is good as well, but so it's personal preference. Right, and then last part is executing, and I wanted to talk about three things here. The first thing is my content matrix. This is something Danko talks about a lot, and it's like 60% of your content should be focused on growth, and those are usually tweets and threads that you know will do well, and these are usually tweets that are doubling down on ideas that have been successful from the past. So this is like the fundamental framework they teach in Chip 30 for 30. Make noise and listen for signal. So this is one way to create growth tweets. Then usually list style tweets do well. So you like take a certain topic or certain issue and create like a list. So I don't know how to become a better writer. One write every day to capture ideas, get feedback. For example, this could be a list style tweet that could do well. And usually like general advice on wealth, health, relationships does really well on Twitter. Sometimes people fall into the trap of posting platitudes that just big accounts keep reposting over and over again. I wouldn't recommend that because platitudes probably will get you a lot of engagement and in some cases followers, but these won't be type of followers that will eventually buy a product or your course or whatever. And I feel like this is what majority of writers are optimizing for. So don't post platitudes. Try to aim for high quality content that either helps people to take action or to think. The next thing is my content schedule, and having a schedule is important because it's like the fundamental of creating a habit. If you don't have habit, then you're probably not a writer. Like this is quite a hard pill to swallow, but habit is just essential thing. I wouldn't have stayed consistent for I don't know 100 days of writing if I wouldn't have wouldn't have stick to a solid schedule. And my schedule currently looks like that. As I've mentioned earlier, I write threads on Tuesday, Thursday, and then Saturday or Sunday. And I write usually at 5 or 6 p.m. And I also write tweets every single day in the morning at 6 or 7 a.m. So I just sit down and look at my tweet bank or swipe file and just write down tweets. And what I'm also a big fan of is batching content. So when I know the next day or week will be busy, I just sit down and write everything all at once. For example, last week, from the Notion swipe file I showed you earlier, I was able to write 22 tweets in one sitting. And given the fact that I have to post 21 times per week or 21 tweets per week, that's incredible. I have just written like 1 week worth of content in 30 minutes. That's why I'm such a big fan of batching. And one thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about content matrix is how I actually schedule it. So if I tell it to you right now, you probably won't remember it, but I have the schedule written in Apple Notes, so I can send you a screenshot and you can use it as inspiration. So I feel like I have Monday 2 growth tweets and 1 authority tweet. This is what I forgot to say. I said there are 3 types of tweets, and I said only 1. So sorry for skipping around like that. So let's go back to content matrix. We had growth tweets, and then there are authority tweets, and then authenticity tweets. Authority tweets are tweets that, as the name says, will make your followers feel like you're the authority on a topic. And this usually includes highly specific advice. So another thing Dicky and Cole talk a lot in Chip 30 for 30, just be hyper specific, you know, get uncomfortably specific, then go even further. So this is how authority tweets work. And also people recommend, if you have a product or a course, share information information from them that could be perceived as authority tweet as well. Important thing to acknowledge is that authority tweets probably won't do as well as growth tweets, but the game of authority tweets is that they should be actionable and highly specific to certain people. They should not reach a lot of people. And the last type of tweet is authenticity, and this is basically sharing your personality. And sharing your personality, stories, I don't know, stories, things you like, things you're interested in, combining your interests is absolutely crucial if you want to build a strong, as people say, personal brand. And my actually better term, because I don't really like personal brand, like the term, because it's quite cliche and everybody says it these days. I prefer the term niche of one. So this is basically when you become a category where no one else can compete with you, because as Naval Ravikant says, no one can compete with you being you. So if you really want to become the category king or the king of your niche, you have to be authentic, because then you become the niche. So don't be afraid to share personal information about your passions. I try to do it like a few times a week. I have a space for authenticity tweet. And this brings me to the content schedule. So on Monday, I have 2 growth tweets and 1 authority tweet. On Tuesday, I have 2 growth tweets and 1 authenticity tweet. And it goes like that. So I can send you a screenshot and you can use it if you want. So the way it's split it up, it should be 60% growth tweets, 20% authority tweets, and 20% authenticity tweets. And oh, important thing is I just forgot what I wanted to say. Yeah, this is the schedule is based on the fact it's good for you if you're posting 3 times a day, which I do. Some people say it's optimal, some people say 5 times per day is better. I feel like 3 times per day is the golden number. If you're a beginner, I mean, if you're under 500 followers or 1,000 followers, you can post 4 times a day. I feel like posting 4 times a day helped me a lot in growing on Twitter. But that's just like a personal preference. Just experiment with different volume. But I feel like 3 times a day is the optimum. And the last part is research, because it was a couple of weeks ago I've published a newsletter where I talk about this one phenomenon, and that's like people often say they have writer's block, but I feel like people don't have writer's block. They have something I like to call the writer's shyness, which is the feeling when you're not confident enough to write about a certain idea, or you feel like the idea is not good enough. And research is the best pill against the writer's shyness, because when you make a proper research, when you have a proper system for processing idea and actually if you work on it and really think through it, then you will be able to write about every topic you like. And my research process is not really complicated. So as you've known earlier, I always capture my headlines and hooks, and then I look at them at the beginning of the week, and I schedule the pieces of content on each day. And I always pick one, and I go for a walk. And on the walk, I just come up with the main points I want to mention. And sometimes I even just outline the whole thread, because it's really not that hard outlining threads, because threads are actually just outline. Threads are not fluffy. You just have to put there the most important information in the most concise way. And it's not really that hard to outline them when you're on a walk, just with your mind. Okay, and then I usually also take notes as I go. And also when I'm on the walk, I always note down when there is something I like to say but don't know how, or something or some places where I don't know what to say. In that case, I look at my Obsidian database and try to find notes on the topics I like to say. So I sort of try to fill in the blanks. If I don't find anything in Obsidian, that's okay. I go to Google and just Google stuff up, or I go to my Twitter bookmarks, or search for relevant YouTube videos. So research doesn't really have to be like you sit down and try to research everything. Just go for a walk, plan out everything in your head, and then you fill in the blanks with the research. And yeah, that's basically it. It's probably been shorter, but or even longer. I don't know about you. But yeah, that's my content creation system in a nutshell. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I have a ton of questions. I'm sure others too. But this is awesome.
Okay, go ahead.
Claudia, I just wanted to acknowledge and appreciate the fact that at 13, you kind of become a system, become like so disciplined to do these activities. It's one thing to know, second thing to kind of use that information and create a system, and thing is to follow that every single week with your studies and everything. So give some kudos to you. You're something.
Yeah, like, I don't really see it as like discipline because it's just, yeah, thank you. It's just fun to me and I'm just obsessed. When you're obsessed, it's there's not much to think about. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
I wish if when I started my programming, I was obsessed with the programming. I wish I would have obsessed with writing like you. Um,
Yeah.
who want to go first for asking the question?
Wow, thank you so much, Claudia. This is amazing. You know, one thing that I struggle with because I use Notion quite a bit and I have a system myself, but my my struggle is usually around how much content I am or ideas that I'm note taking, right? Whether it's from Twitter or parenting or life or coaching, and then using that appropriately rather than constantly collecting all this ideas, all these notes. My Notion is like packed to the rim, but I'm wondering in terms of your system, and I'm sure everyone's is going to be unique. Like, what percentage would you say that you're on, you know, a weekly basis that you're culling, you know, the ideas and then using them? So like, and what advice do you have that you're actually creating more of a balance? Because I'm imbalanced. I have tons of ideas and then I'm wanting to collect more ideas. And when I'm writing, instead of going back to what I've collected, I'm using what's right there in front of me, right? So it's, yeah, any thoughts you have around that topic of really being able to resource all the ideas that I took the time to collect?
Yeah. So my first thought that comes to my mind is whenever you it's just important to make a habit of sitting down weekly at least and going through your notes. And then when you go through your notes, try to note what uh what idea or note you just took sparks that dopamine in you, creates that excitement, creates that curiosity, or just you feel like it resonates with you and you want to create something on it. Because yeah, the reason you take notes is usually because something resonates with you, right? Or at least that's what the building the second brain guy Tiago Verde says. You should note down only what resonates with you, otherwise it's quite pointless. But after a few days or weeks, uh, the percentage of notes that will actually resonate with you will quite decrease. And you want to focus on that, on the ideas that you feel like you actually want to create content on. In case there are not any ideas, and then you probably have to use like the research system I said. So you just pick some random ideas. I know this is not the best advice, but I don't really have a good answer for that. But just focus on ideas that spark the excitement in you, the curiosity, the dopamine, just make you feel, you know, curious and excited to write about. Hope that helps.
Um,
That's really helpful. And I think you made a really important point about the timeliness, because something I'm really excited about, like today, sometimes if it goes too long, then it's like, what was that about? But I think
yeah,
when I use those ideas within a day or two, that's really helpful. But I love this idea of kind of chasing what excites us, right? Because it removes the fear, it helps us flow. So no, that's really helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
hey,
yeah, thank you too.
if I can add to Claudia's point, um, I am this, I don't know about you, but I'm this person who deals with too many ideas syndrome. Okay. Um, and I think it's okay to not use the previously written down ideas, and it's okay to let go of that guilt. I used to feel extremely guilty of not using them, and it's fine. I mean, it's very weird and philosophical, but randomly on days when I have writer's block, they will appear somehow. Like I would have written them in some random notebooks thrown here and there throughout my house. And then someday I'll have writer's block and it'll just be there right in front of me, call it serendipity, whatever. But it does come around over a period of time. So you don't have to feel guilty about
Yeah, 100%.
it. Yeah.
You'll never execute every single idea you've captured. That's just reality. So
Yeah. Yeah. Claudia, so the question that I wanted to ask was so you mentioned three different types of tweets, right? For growth, authenticity, and I forgot the
yeah.
one more thing. Um, but over the over the past 2 years that I've been writing online, somehow I have personally, I like reading stories or works that are a combination of personal stories and research, like my experience backed with research. Um, right? So that's the kind of stories that I like reading about usually, and that's also the kind of tweets that I've tried to put out. So suppose you have an idea, okay, you have a system to do research for it, but do you have any system or something to also store your personal story that's attached with it? I think Ev Chapman calls it Spark Notes. Um, so she says that, when you're watching a YouTube video or something, don't take notes of the YouTube video, but you would have gotten a spark when watching that video. Take a note of that, instead of the actual video. But I mean, that's her system. But do you have any system to capture your personal stories associated with the idea too?
Yeah. Two things come to mind. The first is this is an idea by Matthew Dix, the author of the book Story Worthy, which is like really good book about storytelling. I recommend everyone to read it. And he has the idea of doing the homework for life or creating a story bank. And it's very simple. You just sit down at the end of every single day and you write down. It doesn't have to be like a whole story. You just in bullet points write down the most story worthy moment of your day. So the moment when you realize something or something nice happened to you, and you can keep it in like a Notion database. Yeah, Notion database is probably the best option. And then when you want to create content on any topic, you can just look at the story bank and look at some stories that are relevant to it. This is the first thing, and the next thing is this is idea from Danko. He has this like interesting writing workflow where whenever some idea like tweet, anything quote resonates with him, he writes down a few bullet points to it. So he writes down a brain dump of everything that comes to mind when he hears that idea. Then there is a big problem that comes with the idea and big benefit that comes with solving it, and the one part is also the personal experience with the problem or the idea. So this is another way to also attach the ideas to your personal stories. Hope your question was answered correctly. So that's everything I know, because really I'm not really that good at like connecting things into my own stories, but yeah, this is what comes to mind. Not really my own
Mhm.
ideas, but yeah.
Yeah. But you don't connect the research that you do to your personal stories.
Not very often. Like
Mm.
probably right now I'll start because that's a really good idea. But maybe I do it somehow like, subconsciously, but not really intentionally.
Mm. Yeah, got it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think that's something that I like to do
You
as
too.
well, like combining a story, whether it's mine or, with my clients, if they give me permission, but to also follow it up with something actionable, you know. I feel like some of my tweets that have done well have that combination. So there's the story, or the headline is more about what is the result of the action, but then like the story is kind of what is the middle meat, but the last part of the sandwich is that last piece of bread is, what are three things you can do, that are, like Claudia said, like the problem and the solution for that. I think that model seems to be like what I'm drawn to with the storytelling.
Yeah. And surprisingly, with what I've seen,
Yeah, stories really.
um, hey, sorry. So tweets with personal stories work the best on Twitter. So if you write like traditional medium blog posts and articles, they expect you to add in research links. But on Twitter, you don't need to, is what I have noticed personally, unless and until you're putting out something like like 5 podcasts to listen to on the subject, such kind of tweets. Or if you're mentioning specific numbers. Um, but other than that, personal stories work really well on Twitter, is what I have noticed personally.
Yeah, uh, from my experience, probably not like they don't work best in terms of engagement, but in terms of the responses it sparks in people, it's absolutely incredible. I remember I published once a story of how that one toxic ex best friend told me some bad things about my content creation journey, and I created a story thread of how I pushed through, and this did really well. Like probably was my like third most successful thread, got over 500 likes. But the DMs I got after it and the responses to it they were insane. This was probably the most commented thread I've ever posted. So yeah, stories really spark emotions, and I feel like this is the type of content that will actually build trust with followers.
I will go next. Claudia, you're using many systems, so why? You're using Notion for capturing some of your favorite tweets from some of the favorite people, but then you're also using Apple Note and Obsidian to do the similar things. And then for writing, you're using Draft. So why different systems?
I know this sounds quite counterintuitive, but for me, different systems are better ways to keep it organized, because I once tried to create like separate folders in Apple Notes. One was for tweet, one was for articles, whatever, and I just couldn't keep it organized. But having separate apps for separate types of content and separate purposes helps me to actually be more organized. I know it's quite a bit confusing, but it's really like I have 3 ways to capture ideas actually for. So I have Notion, which is for tweets that resonate with me, drafts for capturing my own tweets, Apple Notes for capturing concepts that resonate with me, usually from reading books, listening to podcasts, or reading articles, And then I have email, which is for capturing headlines and hooks for threads and newsletter and articles. And then I basically use only Obsidian to store those ideas to make research easier and also interconnect them. And I also occasionally use Notion for writing, but for writing the post, I usually use TypeShare or sometimes Google Docs. I know it sounds complicated, but really having separate systems helps me to stay more organized.
It's almost like using different books for different notebooks for different use cases, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And then you're saying draft for writing, but then type share as well for writing. What do you use for scheduling your tweets?
Yeah, drafts is just for like capturing them. So whenever there is time to post, I just copy and paste them. And as a tweet scheduler, I use Hyperfury.
Okay, but you're still using type share for thread.
Yeah, I feel like it's the best thread writing system out there. I tried writing in Hyperfury, but it's quite weird. I haven't really tried anything else.
Okay. And then my questions are very practical, okay? Second, you said you walk and take notes. So how do you do that? Are you recording or you walking with a notebook or what? Phone?
Just type
It depends.
it.
With phone, usually I just type it out usually. But when I'm just too lazy to do so, I use Otter, which is like app that where you capture voice notes and then it creates transcript. And again, it's completely free and I like it quite a lot. So yeah, Apple Notes and Otter. It's OTTER. I can write it in chat.
And then last question on this one, this round is you're writing every day in the morning, but then Tuesday, Thursday, and weekend, 6 p.m. in the evening. So I think that's a discipline part, right? That's a discipline part that in the morning you're writing, and then in the evening, these 3 days, you're writing. And if I guess two part of the question, how do you stick with it? Again, you're probably gonna say you're just obsessed with it. And then second is how do you not write other days?
Yeah. So for the first part of the question, habit is the keyword here. So yeah, obsession, but habit is even more important because it's important for the days when I'm feeling not so obsessed. But yeah, it'll just everything started in Ship 30 for 30 because I believe if you're able to write every single day for 30 days at the same time, at least a little bit, you can build habit for a lifetime. And that's exactly what happened to me. So now it's really easy, just natural thing to sit down in the evening or late afternoon and just start writing. So I don't really have to push myself to it. And writing in the morning is even easier for me because for some reason when I have a set morning routine every single day, it's just easy because I wake up. I also try to hide my phone so it doesn't distract me. And my morning routine is every single day the same. I just wake up, drink water, meditate, and then write, then have breakfast, and it goes on. And I don't know, from some reason, I feel like sticking to morning routine is really easy thing to do so. That's why I write tweets in the morning. I don't really have like good answer to this. And I probably what was the second part of question?
How do you not write other days? Like 6 p.m. on these 3 days, but what if you want to write Monday? I mean, yeah. How do you stick to these days?
Say that again, please.
Okay, so I don't know how to ask, because I think it's funny questions. I feel like asking a silly question, but it's important sometimes that instead of writing all 6 days, or whenever you have a desire, one of the day at 6 p.m., you're writing on certain days like Tuesday, Thursday, and weekend. Now, what happened, especially with me, that instead of Tuesday, I would say I will write Wednesday, and then I will skip Thursday. So my question is, how do you stick to this? How do you kind of manage not to write on Wednesday, but wait for Thursday, even if you have a crazy idea?
Yeah, it's not really that important to stick to it, because the reason I have set those writing days is just in case of emergency. I feel incredibly lazy and don't really feel like writing. So I have habit built on those days, so I know that I'll inevitably sit down to write. But if you have a good idea and you really feel like executing it, then it's just okay. Just write any time you feel like it. It's not that important to stick to your writing days.
And I will give you an example that one of the things that I really want to do is to send an email newsletter every Monday morning. And most of the time, it's easier because you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I would think that I would make enough progress by Sunday. I will schedule it, and if not, then I have Monday morning to fall back, and then 8 a.m. But most of the time, what happens with me is that I will work on everything else but the newsletter, and even on the Monday morning. So somehow I'm not able to do the thing but everything else. So that's why I was asking. It's a very practical problem that I'm facing.
Vinod, can I answer this?
Sure.
Because I've been facing that struggle too. Um, so initially I
Yeah, sure, because
was
I have nothing to say to this.
Oh, before you go, Susie, can we take a selfie? And Claudia, if you want to turn on your video for a few minutes so that we will take the selfie, and then
Can you see me?
all right. Oh, all right, I think I got it. Wait,
Claudia, it
didn't
was wonderful. I have to go because I have to be on a different coaching call, but it was so wonderful hearing you talk about this. I appreciate your obsession, young lady. And you are a role model to all of us old folk on how to get stuff done. I'm super proud of you. I will see you guys later. I got to go.
right?
Hi.
Thank you, Susie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, the same thing. So I send out my newsletter on Monday, and I'm like, yeah, I have Saturday,
Hi, that
Sunday,
means one.
and
Hi.
Monday. Hello.
I think she
Vinod, can
just
you hear me?
turned off her video, so please
Okay.
continue.
Okay. So it was the same for me. I was sending my newsletter. I am sending my newsletter on Mondays, and I feel, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday I have the time. But it never used to get done. Like, so I send out my newsletter at 7 p.m. IST. So at 6 p.m. IST, I'll be like, oh shit, I have to write the newsletter, and I'll sit and write it out. Uh, but something that has worked for me brilliantly is using your time of inspiration and creativity, and not sticking a day for it. Like, in your head, don't keep it as I'm going to write it only on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Just have it as I'm going to write whenever inspiration strikes. And like, if you have on that day, if you have more inspiration, batch schedule for the next week also, so that you don't have to think about it. Like, for example, one random Tuesday evening, I have inspiration to write newsletters, right? So I'll just write like one and half if I want it needn't even be a whole number. Like just write like 1.5 or 1 3/4 and just schedule one, and then you're saying that 3/4 I'm going to work on it next week whenever I get that inspiration, right? I mean, that works for me because I'm a very flowy kind of a person instead of structured. But I mean, it works for you. If it works for you, it works.
And I think that's what creates all the problem for me, because then I will feel like I can do it anytime,
Mm.
and then I would skip it. Meaning, the when the creativity hits, and that happened with Sunday morning and Monday morning. No, Monday and Tuesday. I just got into June, and I read some really good thread that I'm very happy about. But it happened all of the sudden, and it was not pre-planned. Um, so that works, but actually doesn't create a system for me. It then I'm very flexible to skip it, very flexible of to not do it because I'm probably not in the inspiration mode, or maybe I have too much time between Friday and Monday morning. I have too much time that I could do it anytime, right? I don't have to wait for a certain time, and that's why it doesn't work, because I keep delaying it.
Can I say
Do you need a structure to write?
Sorry?
Do you need a structure? Are you a structure person?
Oh no, I used to be, and then I I became a manager, and I came kind of completely destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know what you mean, but if you take one particular day, it feels like you're in a high or you're in a low. But at least for me, if I take a week, if I look back on a week, it kind of matches. Like it just kind of fits in because the tasks that I would have set to do for a week, I would have completed it. You know, it might not be on a particular day,
Mhm.
but someday. Um, so that, I mean, yeah, too much of restrictions also, I know, I can't deal with it. I just go mad.
Can I say
Yeah.
something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were saying something, Su Young.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to have our 30, our quick coaching call later, but I think there's three things that come to mind. Is one is to know yourself. So know what is your weakness, like what are your saboteurs? Is it procrastination? Is it criticism? Is it judgment? I mean, I think it's time,
Yeah.
like when I'm working with people, I look at what are their default habits that actually keep them from doing what they want. And so if you know those, you can create a system that works better for you, because not one system is going to work for everyone. So let's say that procrastination is the way you deal with it, or writer's block where you're looking at a blank page. Procrastination, just get on a session of Focus Mate. You have 50 minutes, you meet
Mhm.
someone, you have 1 minute of sharing, and then you do your work. Let's say your other saboteur is writer's block. You're just looking at a blank page. Whenever you get when the iron is hot, whenever you have any inspiration, just create something. Like Claudia was saying, Sutri was saying, just like create something so that when you have that chunk of time to actually work on it more, you're not like, oh, what is it that I'm going to write about? Like you probably need to look at your notes or your first draft, or I use free writing all the time.
Mhm.
But I think it's really important to recognize what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and create the system around that. But you usually have to start with your blocks first, because those are what's, they're in your way. And I get the sense that you need a sense of urgency, Vinod. You need a sense of urgency. So not a huge chunk of time, but just like a compressed. So what I do is when I feel like urgency is going to help me, I don't allow myself to do that thing that I really want to do that day, whether it's like, I'm going to take my son to the beach, right? I give myself 2 hours max just to be like, I'm not going to do that until I get this done. So it's almost like you have to create your personal milestones of urgency rather than this huge chunk of time, because it seems like during that time, you're kind of wavering and you're getting, you're doing everything else. And like I shared before, doing what you absolutely are scared of first every day, it's life-changing. It's really life-changing. And I'm not saying I do it all the time, but when I do it, holy shit. It's like the rest of my day, I'm like flying because it's easy, like it doesn't, sure, it feels good to like cross off all these things on the to-do list, but if I still have that thing that I know I was meant to do that day, my day is really dragged down versus like starting with that. And it seems like Claudia has a system. She gets up, and does this, and it's like she gets right on it. But that system, there's parts of that that will resonate for you and won't. But I think that's really key for you, is kind of starting with what you know is hardest, what you're avoiding, and then the rest of your day, I think, will have more of a flow. And you need that urgency, and that's okay. Sometimes that's what we need, to push us. And I think like writing is kind of like dating. It can't just be like when you feel like it. Like you just have to have the practice of like, all right, I'm going to meet you. We're going to hang out, even if I'm in a bad mood, even if my hair looks like shit, whatever. It's just to show up with whatever's happening. And I think our challenges are sometimes our greatest tweets, like what you're struggling with. Like write a tweet about or write a newsletter about struggling to write a newsletter, because it's that authentic. It's you're working through a process. It's that personal branding, all of that. So that's just my 2 cents or 5 cents.
Thank you. That was helpful, Suyang. And then doing what you're scared of first. That's a thread that you should write. Thank you. Thank you, Shruti. Thank you, Suyang, for your comments. Claudia, do you have anything to say? Add?
One thing that I also was thinking of is accountability. That's like a big thing if you're really struggling to get things done. And what you can do is just like if you can just hop on a call with someone who is open to writing at the same time with you, and you can just be there for 1 hour or however long it takes you to write the issue and just write if you're really struggling to get yourself to it. Or you can do what I like to do. This is like a cheaper option, but you can search for YouTube something like Write With Me. For example, Ali Abdel has a video of him writing for 2 hours. So you can just turn it on and have it ideally on a separate screen, and this will also sort of motivate you to keep writing and stop slacking off, or at least that's what has been helpful for me.
Those was my question. Anyone else?
That's it from me.
Me too. Thank you so much, everyone.
Claudia, thank you so much for joining us. Um, I these are the things that make me really satisfied and fulfilled that I created that group. I think the people who are in that group is so close to each other and they help each other. Uh, they're like family. And thank you so much for coming here, sharing your workflow. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day and rest of the week.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
You
Tom.
too. Yeah, thank you as well for this opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you.